Hello, everyone. I'm Julianne Meyer, and you are watching Own Your Wellness. And I am so excited for today's conversation because, well, let me just put it to you this way. I didn't realize my ringer was on on my phone, and somebody just texted me, and I was thinking, who in the heck is texting me now? Don't they know I have a TV show? Blah, blah, blah. This whole story I made up in my head. Anyway, that's instead of being grateful for the fact that that it happened before I was on and it dinged. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Anger, where it comes from, why it shows up, how to handle it, how to get rid of it, how to move through it, all of those fun things. But before we get started, I do want to mention, for those of you who are not aware, I am starting my own TV network called Achieve TV here on E360 TV. So it is going to be more like a channel through E360 TV, and I'm excited. It's going to be for entrepreneurs. So if you're interested in becoming a host or maybe adding some segments to some possible shows, reach out to me. You can reach me at ownyourwellness.net or on Instagram at Jules Ann Meyer. That was kind of weird to say. Anyway, so let's get going. Let's talk about anger and how it shows up, what it looks like, what it can do to you, all the things. But first, instead of going into the negative side of anger, I want to mention that anger isn't always a really bad thing. Sometimes when you don't let it overtake you, it can be a positive emotion. Not anything is all negative. Not anything is all positive. Too much of anything is too much of anything. So, except for love, there's never too much love. I stand corrected. But what I'm getting at is that sometimes anger can motivate you to do things. There's that or Amber laws or the Amber alerts, things like that, or MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, all of these different things good things that have come from anger. Those are things we want to celebrate, because it's not always a super negative thing. But if it overcomes you and eats you alive, then obviously we have a problem there. But, this show isn't necessarily for people who need anger management or people who really, are hitting other people or are violent or, out of their anger, anything like that. This show is geared towards people who, like me, have struggled with anger in the respect of, why is it like somebody cuts me off and I get exponentially angry instead? It just doesn't match the situation. There's no reason for me to be as upset as I am. And I noticed that happens quite a bit with me, or it used to, not anymore, because, I've been working on it and catching it as it comes along. So we want to talk about a little bit about that and how sometimes it's even hormonal. It can even be hormonal. It's anger shows up in your body. For those of you who aren't aware, anger shows up in your body as a chemical reaction. So if you think about it, you're releasing stress hormones. It introduces the fight or flight or freeze. Actually, now we added that one to the mix, into the bloodstream. So all of those, the fight, flight, and freeze, really are not good for your body. It's okay if you have a cheetah chasing you. It's okay, if you're, if somebody coming at you with a knife. That's okay to release, those stress hormones. But when somebody cuts you off in traffic, or somebody's chewing too loudly, or fill in the blank, whatever it is that chaps your hide, then that's what I'm talking about. Not just the irritation, although it does sometimes build from irritation. So hold on a sec. It does sometimes build from irritation, and it's just more of a actually what it is an energy surge in your body. Anger is an energy surge. So we got to do something with that energy surge. But what happens when we're experiencing this anger on a regular basis? Well, like I said, it introduces the fight, flight, or freeze scenario into our bloodstream. But what does that cause? I mean, definitely health issues, as we all know. So it can cause cardiac issues. You can have health issues because of anger. It definitely lowers your immunity. That's another one. I mean, just think about it. All these things we all know that stress kills, right? So think of anger as stress, and it is, then you get the idea. But some other things that people don't necessarily think about is the gastrointestinal effects. It can cause well, actually, besides gas, bloating, diarrhea, vomiting, and all of those things that can happen, but creating ulcers and things like that as well. But it also can help you. It can also create problems so that you can't absorb your food properly. And this is all from anger. So it's not necessarily the best emotion. And not that we can't avoid it. It's going to happen. But how do we navigate it? That's really what the question is. How do we move forward and not let it overcome us and become us? So obviously there's different things that we can do. We can lower stress in the moment by breathing deeply. That's one. Stop, pause, and wait until you react to something. Now, if you're anything like I am, and I know so many people like this, in the beginning, it was really hard for me because it just was automatic. I'm going to just keep using the cut you off in traffic example. Somebody cuts me off and I'm instantly angry. And then it's like, okay, wait a second. Does that even serve me? I'm safe. I'm fine. I kind of saw them coming. So really there's no danger. Why am I so upset? So I started asking myself these questions. And these are things that you should ask yourself when you are confronted with these feelings of anger. I'm not saying that you can't have justified feelings of anger. I'm not saying you can't feel anything. I'm saying you can feel whatever you want. However, is it serving you? Is it making your life better? Are you living a better life because of it? That's the real question. How is life better for you if you're angry all the time? We all know that it's already affecting your body, and therefore it's going to affect your mood as well. So it's kind of like one of those catch-22s. It's one or the other, and one causes the other and vice versa. So it's kind of like a hamster wheel when you get going on it. Ugh, how frustrating. But so here's sorry. And here's another thing before I forget. It also affects your memory. Isn't that ironic that that's the one thing I forgot to mention, is that it does affect your memory. Oh, goodness. And while I mentioned before that anger can be a good thing, a lot of times when we are angry, we are not making the best choices in that emotional state. So it is better to calm down before we make major decisions. I mean, how many times have people said something that they regret later, all because they were angry? Or, you can't undo something that happens. The damage is already done. The only thing you can hope for is to move forward and not let it color the rest of your relationship with people. So what are some things that we can do? The first thing that I always think about whenever I start to get angry is remembering that other people are doing the best that they can in that moment, always. I might not agree with them. It's interesting because it's kind of hard to remember when you're upset. But once you start questioning why you're upset, where these feelings are coming from, all of this, which we're going to get into it a little bit later. But once you start, questioning why you're feeling this way and why there's so much anger, because ultimately we don't have to feel angry even if we're justified. We really don't. Part of it too, before we go any further, that I really want to mention is that we build neural pathways in our brain. So when something happens, it automatically triggers. So have you ever had something happen and you're instantly angry and then you realize 2 seconds later, or even less, why am I upset? I'm not upset, actually. But for that moment, it's just an instantaneous reaction, or at least it feels like that. And then it's like, whoa, wait a second. I'm not upset. Why am I upset? I have no reason. That's not a big deal. So, it's just that our brain literally has made the connection. So it's easier for the brain to go from 0 to angry because that's what it's done in the past. So once you start noticing, like I was talking about, where the anger, your triggers are and what causes it, as in like the external stimuli. It's not what causes your anger, but it's what the trigger is. So for me, it used to be people cutting me off in traffic, or what really still kind of gets me is injustice, or when people don't realize how hypocritical they're being, especially like in the world of politics. It just makes me upset. So I stopped watching the news. I stopped reading the news because I found it annoying. I found it irritating. And there was nothing that I could do about that except not put it into my system. So that's one thing you can do, is eliminate some of the outside things. But ultimately, it's, you have to do the inside work, because there's always going to be something outside that is going to be triggering you, making you feel a certain way, which we all know is a load of crap. But anyway, what I'm getting at, and I'm going to get back to this, is start noticing when you're upset, and then think about it. Am I actually upset? Is this just a reaction to what's going on, and that's just instantaneous, or am I really upset? And then think to yourself, as I mentioned, or remind yourself that everybody is doing the absolute best they can in that moment. Nobody's out to upset you. And if they are out to upset you for whatever reason, it's because they're hurting themselves and they want other people to hurt. We all know these things, right? So it's kind of like a little kid that wants attention in a negative way. It doesn't mean that you give them the attention in that negative way. Same idea with anger. You don't have to keep feeding the lion, as they say. But it is time for us to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back. If you're just joining us now, I'm Julie Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and we're talking about anger. Anyway, I do like to crack myself up. Thank you, Helene, for mentioning that. Anyway, before we really get going, I mentioned about the TV host. The other thing that I want to mention is my book is coming out. I'm so excited. It's called Achieve Wellness. And if you want to get a copy, reach out to me at ownyourwellness.net and I will send you one. Woo, woo, woo. I think they're $29.95. So yeah, that's it. That's the deal. And if you mention today's show, then I'll give you 25% off. So even better. All right. So let's talk about anger. That dreaded anger. So we were talking a little bit about how, it releases stress hormones into your bloodstream, and that it's not good for your health. Stress kills. We all know this. Let's think about what anger is. I love this saying. I don't even remember where I picked it up. I have been saying it for years, but anger is sad's bodyguard. And I always feel like not only does it protect some sort of a sadness, but anger also masks hurt, it masks fear, and it also masks frustration. So it comes from somewhere. Your anger comes from somewhere. So if you think about it, it's like, okay, let's take the example of somebody, cutting you off in traffic. It could be fear because you were afraid you were actually going to be injured or in a car accident. Maybe that's why you're angry. You know what I'm saying? So think about that. And if you can, we can all deal with our emotions when we can sort of figure out what they are, right? But in the last segment, I was talking about how it's not ever really outside of us. And a lot of the times when we are feeling anger, that is out of proportion to a situation that is going on. So, for example, I mentioned the people chewing loudly. Now, that happens to be something that bugs me, but it bugs me when I chew loud in myself, like myself chewing loudly. But here's the thing about it is that it's not the actual sound that is upsetting me. It's not the actual whatever that's upsetting you that's making you angry. It is something else in your life. And it has nothing to do with what is going on outside right now in that particular moment. What that anger is a lack of a sense of control. So, what is it in your life that you're afraid of? When you realize that you're afraid of something, like for me, it would be losing loved ones. And that is a reasonable fear for me, considering the countless people that I have lost. I am not that old, and I have lost more than my father, who is 78. And I'm referring to close loved ones. Yeah, I'm not referring, I mean, I am referring to them, but I'm also referring to friends and everything else. I'm talking about significant people in my life. So that fear of abandonment for me is a real thing. And so, not that, and it might sound weird. So let me explain this. It might sound like, what the heck is she talking about? What does being afraid of losing somebody in her life have to do with her being angry at somebody chewing loudly? Bear with me here. The reason why is because I still have this fear that is built up inside of me. And I'm using this as an example. I have this fear and I can't control whether or not somebody that I love passes away. I have no control over that whatsoever. But for some reason in my brain, it feels like I can control that little issue that's outside of me. That person chewing loudly or really loud on their cell phone in a nice restaurant, or, driving like a maniac on the road, it feels like that's something that I can control. So it manifests itself, that fear manifests itself as anger towards whatever that is at that particular moment. And you'll discover which ones are yours, which ones are your triggers, the things that get you going. So I just wanted to mention that because it was such an epiphany for me and an aha moment when I really realized that anger is just a bodyguard for other emotions, and that it's our way of trying to control the situation when we don't feel like we have any control, whether or not it is the thing that's happening in front of us, or if it's a deep-seated something that is manifesting itself somewhere else. Now, I'm always talking about we keep our issues in our tissues, and how if you don't let go of negative emotions, they will manifest physically in your body. Literally, this is science. This is not woo-woo. This is science. Anger and fear and all of these things will manifest in your body physically. And they're actually correlated to some cancers and things like that as well. Now, I'm not saying that if you do have something like heart disease or, gastrointestinal issues or even cancer, I'm not saying you did this to yourself. I don't want you to take on, like, if only I'd been different. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is that you do have control over, how you're going to react to what's happening in front of you. So you get to make that choice. You get to choose what's going to suit you and what serves you. So think about that whenever you start to react. Now, I've mentioned this one before, but it's such a great example. And it's really funny because a lot of the times too, when we're upset with somebody or something, we are taking the situation way too seriously. And so it's much better to just relax and have fun and make fun. So my theory now moving forward, and this, I'm not angry when anybody cuts me off anymore. In my opinion, in Queen Julianne's opinion, and they're not driving the way I think they should be, then I think, oh my gosh, they must really have to poop. They must really got to go because they're in a hurry to get home right now because they got to go. And I'm telling you, it's kind of gross, but it works. It diffuses any sort of anger that I may have because it makes it less serious. First of all, it's hard to take things seriously when you are laughing, right? So So I just want you to think about, how can you make things more funny? How can you take the seriousness out of situations? It's okay to laugh. Even if you have justified anger, it's okay to laugh. It's okay to let it go. You you don't have to feel the emotion just because it's justified. Seriously. So keep that in mind. I really want you to keep that in mind when you are, you know, getting upset. But what can you do? What can you do about these things? It's like I can't really control everything around me. So if I keep trying to, I don't know, if I have a problem with people on their cell phones, then I couldn't even stay at home because I have a cell phone. My fiance has a cell phone. People that come over have cell phones. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be something. So we have to do the internal work. And it doesn't have to be that serious. That's kind of what I'm getting at. It doesn't have to be serious. You can have so much fun with everything. And, you know, it, anger is such a negative emotion in general that if we can transmute it and change it into something that's a little bit more positive, goodness sakes, wouldn't life be so much better? I don't know about you, but I definitely think that life would be so much better. Anyway, it is actually already time for another commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back. If you're joining us now, I'm Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness. We're talking about anger, and we've been talking about how it manifests in your body. We've been talking about ways to look at it a little bit differently. Now let's talk about ways that we can actually lower our stress levels, because anger is a stress response. So what can we do? I don't know about you, but I sure as heck am a lot more easily angered or angered by anything when I don't get enough sleep. So, I'm always harping on this. It is own your wellness. So, in order to help yourself, you need to start taking care of yourself. You know, um, it might not be fun to go to bed early or at the same time, but you know what's really not fun is shortening your life because you're not getting enough sleep, which will actually shorten your life, or because you're angry, which can shorten your life, because it causes disease in your body. So what we're talking about is how can you lower those stress levels? So we're okay, obviously sleep. What about water? Are you hydrated enough? If your body cannot work at its optimal levels, then a lot of your energy is going to be going to your bodily functions instead of to like regulating your emotions and things like that, because you're not going to have all that extra to be tided over to help you in that respect. So you do need to take care of yourself. That's the number one way to help yourself with anger. Now, something else, like I said, relieving stress. You know what works for me and works like a charm? Oh my goodness, go outside, get some fresh air. If you can, go barefoot. If you're in California, 99% of the time, you can do that. Or even moccasins so that you can feel the ground in between the shoe. And my friend Chris Jones actually posted something about that the other day. And I adored that comment, or that she, posted that and put up where you can get those shoes. Because if you can feel a part of the earth, it actually reminds you that you're not the center of the universe. You're a lot less likely to be angry when you realize it's not that big of a deal. In the grand scheme of things, is it really a big deal? No, it's not. I can guarantee it really isn't. Even, like me being upset about and angry about like my mom passing away, it's not that big of a deal in reality. It happens. I mean, people die all the time. It's not anything new. It's not like she was wronged. I mean, I have the right to be upset, or I did, but, is that serving me? So these are the questions I want you to think about, and think to yourself, how can I help myself? So like I said before, pause every time you start to get angry. If you can feel it coming, if you can feel it building slowly, take a breath. Take a big, deep breath, like 10 of them. That's the magic number, 10. Do that. Sit. Remove yourself from a situation for a few moments. Don't keep going. If you know you're getting worked up, stop. Collaborate and listen. Sorry. Anyway, but yeah, just stop and take yourself out of that situation, and then you can come back. It's okay to take a breather. Nothing good happens when you're angry. Remember, like I said before, who makes good decisions when they're angry? So keep that in mind. What are some other things you can do to lower your stress levels? They're the things we talk about all the time. You can't be grateful and you can't be angry at the same time. So practice gratitude whenever you start to feel angry. What are you grateful for? And I'm talking about, what are you actually grateful for? And if you're somebody that can't think of anything right away, don't give up. It just means you need to practice more at looking at what's good. It doesn't mean that there isn't anything there. It means that you need more practice at it. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So stop shaming yourself or letting other people shame you because you feel like you're being ungrateful, or they feel like you're being ungrateful. It's not really any of their business anyway, now is it? But anyway, what else can you do? There's journaling to get those emotions out. There's meditation to help quiet your mind. As I mentioned, going for a walk. Listening to music is a great thing. There's also essential oils. Light a candle of your favorite scent that will help calm you down. What are some things that instantly make you feel better? Now, something that is not a good idea, and something I want you to refrain from doing, is going and complaining to anybody who will listen about what's going on. It's not going to change your situation. You just verbally, like throwing up on somebody else, all your crap. And if you're not actually looking for a solution, then that's not a good time to be talking about it. Remember, we don't make good choices when we're upset. So don't go complaining. That's the only thing. Like, that's when you journal. If you feel the need to like spread this anger around, spread it into a journal, spread it onto a book, do a voice note if you have to on your phone, rant and whatever to yourself, but don't spread it around to other people. It will only spread negativity, and that's not what you're after. See, the thing is like, when we're angry, like I mentioned before, there's an energy surge, and we have to do something with that energy. That's why we yell. That's why we scream. That's why some people hit. It's why sometimes people get murdered, because they're angry and there's this huge energy surge in their body, and they have to discharge the energy. So how can you do that too? If you're in the moment and you are angry, one of the best things you can do is scream really loud. Just scream, like guttural scream, yell, just explode that out. Make it so you can let go of that anger. It is such a good way to release. What else can you do? Punch a pillow. I mean, literally physically stomp your feet. Do exercise. That's another one to relieve stress too. So do some exercise. I can't even tell you how many times I've power walked anger off. Not only do I get some good exercise, I relieve myself from a situation, and I get rid of that darn anger. So, these are all things that you can do. So, we've been talking a bit about anger and what you can do to get rid of it, but I wanted to do something different today. I wanted to do something fun. So, we're going to try something different, and I'm going to show you guys something kind of cool. There's something I'm going to show you the opener first, and then we'll talk about it and show you the video. Sorry, I had to give my little dancing in. All right. So I get a lot of questions about crazy healthy, health facts and things. And, like, what's the craziest thing you know? And I know so many weird things that are, interesting to me anyway. So I'm actually going to play some for you guys. These are my top 10 for today. Here you go. Okay, so I'm not suggesting that you take an antihistamine. They're probably not the best for you, but it can help eliminate eye circles, which is fascinating to me. But there's two facts in there that I kind of wanted to talk about real quick. And one is that most adults spend more time on the toilet than they do exercising. While I am grateful that you are eliminating whatever from toxins and waste from your body, isn't that a sad commentary on how we spend our time? We spend more time on the toilet than we do exercising on average. I think that is a very sad thing to hear, considering, how much the average person spends on the toilet, average adult that is. So, that's food for thought. And the other one that I wanted to talk about was that 84% of our fat is lost through breath. So that means you're working out and you are losing the fat through your breath. Most people think you lose it through your sweat and everything else. That's only the 16% that isn't mentioned, through urinating, through, water loss, things like that. No, that's not where you lose the fat. The fat is lost through your breath. That's why working out and eating well go hand in hand, my friend, because you can't outwork a bad diet. And look at my allergies, it's stress related. You can't outwork a bad diet. And so that's why they go hand in hand. All right. So that was one thing. We're going to do another one. I'm just excited. Let's do this one. Okay, so I've got 3 health tricks and whatnot for it. One of them is not a health trick, but one of them is a tip for keeping your food fresher. So if you ever have baked goods and you ever notice they get hard right away or rather quickly, one of the best ways to keep them fresh is by putting them in one of these pieces of Tupperware, something like this. It doesn't have to be this particular brand, but lock it in here. First of all, I can't even open it. It's so tight. There we go. You want to pop it in there. But not just that. You want to put in a piece of white bread with it. And that will help keep your baked goods, your fresh baked goods, soft, is by putting white bread in a sealed container with your baked goods. It will keep them soft. So that's your number 1 tip there. But here's the one that I find the most fascinating. And this one, yes, I have a spoon on purpose. This one could have saved me so much in ginger. It's not even funny. Do you ever try and peel ginger? Any of you? Oh my goodness. It is one of the most hard things. So like you cut it off and you get 90% of the meat with it. Here's a trick. So pretend my finger is the ginger. You just scrape it. You scrape it with this part of the spoon right here, the rounded part that you eat off of. scrape the ginger. It'll get rid of the top skin, and you can get in those little nodules and things. Oh my goodness, if I had learned that one sooner, I would have been so much more happy. I could have saved so much ginger meat. It's not even funny. And another thing too, if you want to maybe, I don't know, like if you want to spend a little bit extra money, you don't want to do that, you can just buy this squeezable kind of ginger as well. But I recommend scraping it with a spoon. And my last tip for you, and this one is amazing, is, and I'm sure if you've cooked it all, you know that you're supposed to rinse your grains, all of them. I'm talking rice, I'm talking quinoa. But the reason why, and I've never heard it like this before, and it made it like hit home. Well, one is they'll actually cook faster if you rinse them, but you also got to keep in mind that they are grown in the ground like your fruits and your vegetables. You wouldn't eat your fruits and your vegetables without washing them. So you should also wash your grains. Rinse them off. Use like if you have quinoa, use a sieve, and then you could just like use that to put it in there, rinse it off. Yeah. Soak them if you can. That'll even help with the starch as well. So it gets off some of the extra starchy stuff when you rinse them. So those, my friends, are the health tips and tricks for today. And next up, we're going to do something fun. We're going to do Ask Julianne. All right. We are here. We've got the bowl of questions. Let's see what we got here. I'm telling you right now, I happen to know, yes, these are going to be gut health questions today. All right. How can you improve gut health? So here's the thing, like a lot of our health resides in our mouth and also our gut. So that's something that I want you to keep in mind. You need to have good oral hygiene as well as good gut health in order to be healthy. There are so many germs up in our mouth. If our mouth is not healthy, that's really where it starts. And then also gut health or gut. We've all heard of the gut-brain connection, the stomach-brain connection. So, we definitely need to make sure that our gut health is healthy in order to be at our best health. So what can you do to improve it? Well, one, you need to reduce your stress. I mean, these are all common ideas and there's nothing new here. So reduce your stress. We talked about those before. Meditation, whatever it is. Something I do want to mention that I didn't mention before is when you are trying to reduce your stress, it is not a stress reducer to watch TV. It is not a stress reducer to drink. It is not a stress reducer to play video games. Those are all ways to check out of what's going on, not reduce stress. So there is a difference. Okay. You didn't earn a glass of wine. It's something you're doing to distract yourself from what's going on. So to actually reduce your stress, you need to do something that is helpful to you. So like I mentioned, meditation, journaling, gratitude. Don't forget gratitude. What are you grateful for? Just stop and take a quick look around. For me, I've got a freaking fan on. I've got 2 healthy animals. I mean, I've got a million things to be grateful for. And so do you. Just take a look around. And I know that when things are dark, it doesn't feel that way sometimes, but you've got to start looking at the good things or the things that you don't hate. That's enough. Get started. What if there's some things that you don't hate? That's a good way to think about it. Okay. So reduce stress, sleep. Hello, sleep again. We need to sleep well. I'm going to keep on harping on this forever because it's that important. Sleep is important. And I'm not just talking about like sleeping with the TV on or sleeping because, you're passed out or I'm talking about genuine sleep. So if you need help with that, reach out to me. I know some people that I can introduce you to that can help you with that. It's not my specialty. It's not something that I particularly help people with, but I know some really good people who do. So if you need help with that, reach out to me at ownyourwellness.net or Jules Ann Meyer on Insta. Okay. So what are some other things that you can do to improve your gut health? Interestingly, well, actually, it's not interestingly enough, but eat slowly. Actually chew your food. Hello. Think about it. Your stomach lining is like the inside cheek of your mouth. So that's what your stomach lining is. If you are swallowing your food basically whole, you're expecting the inside of your cheek to digest your food. Yeah, there's some acids down there, but just think about that. If you could help out that cheek, your stomach lining, then why wouldn't you? So that's a really good way to improve your gut health. Stay hydrated, obviously. And then there's changing your diet. So if you're eating too much sugar, too much means try and get rid of recreational sugar if you can. Save that for recreation. So what do I mean by recreational sugar? And yes, it is the same as recreational drugs in my book, because it does cause inflammation and all sorts of undesirable things in your body. But what I'm referring to is birthday cakes on birthdays. That's okay. Do it. Celebrate life. But having a cake in the middle of the night because your body's craving sugar is not a good sign. And that's something that you need to take a look at. So change your diet. Start eating more whole, natural foods. The less processed, the better. Obviously, we all know this. The other thing, too, that you can think about are probiotics. And then, of course, there's prebiotics. We all hear about probiotics and prebiotics. Prebiotics can be found in food. So you don't need to actually take like a pill for that. But just as long as you're eating the rainbow, you'll get your prebiotics, no problem. And then probiotics, they're not created equal. So you do need to make sure that you are getting something quality if you're going to go that route. Make sure that you get quality probiotics. Hire somebody to help you with that if you need to. Otherwise, do some serious research on the internet. All right, next question. All right. So what are some causes of an unhealthy gut? Today, by the way, is gut day. All right. So like I mentioned, sugar. Sugar is horrible on your gut. So you want to just start eliminating as much of that as possible. If you're drinking soda still, please stop. Soda is the cigarettes of this century. So yeah, keep that in mind. You definitely want to lower your stress levels. That will help with your gut health. I mean, that's what we've been talking about with the whole show, and anger and lowering stress levels. It literally affects the way your body functions. If you don't want to be gassy, if you don't want to, have an upset stomach, or you want to actually absorb the nutrients in your food, then lower your stress levels. And part of lowering your stress levels, as we've mentioned, is getting more sleep. So make sure you get enough of that. Now, I'm not one that says that you have to do 8 hours. I'm saying you got to figure out what works for you. For me, it's like 7. I cannot do under 7. I'm not okay if I do under 7. And I start making, and think about it this way. When was the last time you made healthy choices when you're tired? Who wants to actually make some good food for themselves when they can order in or go through a drive-thru or something like that? So keep that in mind. When you are tired, you don't make good health choices. You don't want to do those things because you're tired. So, and then there's the standard American diet. It's not called SAD for nothing. I mean, it really is. So I don't know. Actually, I do know. I do know how the American diet became the American diet. It's called marketing and big money. It's all about selling stuff. It has nothing to do with health. It's all about what's in fashion. Think about, the low fat diet fad that was like so big. Now we're learning the effects of that, how that was not good for us, and that actually, if you'd been listening to the right people, you would have known that the entire time. I was one of those people who didn't know that. So I'm not shaming anybody. I'm just saying that sometimes the news is not the best place to get our dieting instructions from. And if it doesn't make sense to you, then it doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to. All right. And then another one, sorry, my nose is super itchy. It's those allergies. What's another thing that causes an unhealthy gut is taking antibiotics, which is actually really unhealthy for you in general if you do it too often, because it really does. It destroys your gut health 100%. So be careful when you're don't take them for everything. Just be careful with taking antibiotics because it will destroy your gut health. All right, next question. Out of the bowl of questions. Here we go. Oh, what types of foods improve your gut health? Okay. So I like this question because it's kind of fun. So obviously we want to do high fiber foods because high fiber foods help clean out the system and it's good for you. Better nutrients, quality food. Where can you find these high fiber foods? Well, legumes, obviously, whole grains, of course. You do need to be careful if you have celiacs or a gluten allergy. Just be careful with that. Then, of course, there's veggies. Oh my goodness, veggies have so much fiber. Nuts as well, and then fruits. Now, a word of caution with nuts in particular. If you have kidney stones or anything like that, the oxalates in nuts can affect you. So be careful about overdoing nuts. And if you are going to do nuts, make sure that they are raw. I'm not talking peanuts. I'm talking, cashews, almonds, walnuts, things like that. Try and stay away from peanuts. Peanuts don't really have a lot of redeeming qualities because they're kind of a dirty food in a way, unless you're getting like completely organic and that kind of thing, and salt free. All right, what are some other good gut health foods? Garlic, actually, surprisingly enough, garlic. Then there's fermented foods. I mean, we know about fermented foods. And why are fermented foods good for our health? Because they're probiotics. That's why. So what are fermented foods? I'm talking about sauerkraut, for example, and not like the kind that you get on a Nathan's hot dog. I am referring to real, honest to goodness sauerkraut that you find in the refrigerator section, not on the plain old shelf in the grocery store, but probably at like a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or something like that. They might even have it at Ralph's or Safeway or one of those other ones, but I don't know. I rarely shop there. Anyway, fermented foods. What are some other ones? Kimchi, for example. Yogurts are good for your gut health as well. There's also collagen boosting foods. What are collagen boosting foods? Broccoli, for example. Anything citrus. What else? There's eggs and there's, actually, surprisingly, meat and even nuts, as I mentioned before. So you get nuts in the high fiber section and you get nuts in the collagen boosting. So that's kind of a double whammy. But remember, too, they're high in calories for such a small dose. So you do, and high in fat. So you do not want to overdo the nuts, even if you are doing raw, even if you are doing, and not peanuts. Just keep that in mind. So those are some of the things that I want you to think about when you are looking for foods for your gut health. All right, let's do one more here. Let's see what we got here. Oh, here's one. What's the difference between a nutritionist and a health coach? Okay. Well, first of all, a nutritionist went to school for a long time, which is really amazing because they know all the ins and outs and what's accepted common knowledge when it comes to your body and food. And I am not putting down a nutritionist, but I would definitely try and find one that has more education than just that they went to school for that. And not because they aren't intelligent, because they are. I'm saying this because you only know what you know. If you go to school to become a mechanic, and you only specialize in a certain type of motor, you're not going to understand something else. So you want somebody who's going to be more up on what the latest thing is, not what was necessarily taught at university, because that's not the latest. Never is. And then the health coach is, well, they could have gone to school as well for being a nutritionist. I know a lot of doctors who are health coaches now. But a health coach will help you walk through the steps. A health coach will help you navigate the next steps, be your accountability buddy. So for those of you who don't know what an accountability buddy is, an accountability buddy is a person that holds you accountable. That's your buddy. So it's kind of a melding of the two words, like J-Lo. Anyway, but yeah, a health coach will help you actually make those changes instead of just telling you what to do. Whereas a nutritionist or a dietitian, which those two are slightly different too in education, but they'll tell you what to do, but they're not going to actually help you do it typically. So that would be a good reason to get yourself a health coach, because they're actually going to coach you, right? Okay. We're going to do one more question, one more, and then we're going to call it a day. Let's see here. Ooh, here we go. here's signs of an unhealthy gut. What are they? Signs of an unhealthy gut. So if you've ever wondered, like, do I have an allergy, a food allergy, or why do I have the toots, or all these different types of questions, you might have an unhealthy gut. So how can you tell, like, on your own, besides going to a doctor? And to be honest, there's not a lot of tests that will necessarily accurately tell you that. So one of the signs, obviously, is an upset stomach. What do I mean by upset stomach? I mean, your tummy hurts, obviously, vomit, diarrhea, constipation, toots. All those things. Those are all upset stomach. What about, then there's unintentional weight changes, and it could go either way. So I'm not saying, like, you could be just going along, like your diet doesn't really change, all of a sudden you balloon up. Unhealthy gut, typically. Or you swell. It's kind of more like a swelling than a gaining weight. Unhealthy gut, that means there's inflammation. If you have inflammation, that means you're inflamed. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. Then there's, like, if you're constantly tired. If you are constantly tired, then you probably have an unhealthy gut, even if you're trying to get enough sleep, or if you can't sleep well. You probably have an unhealthy gut. Stress, unhealthy gut go hand in hand. There you go. So work on the stress levels will help your gut, and vice versa. If your skin gets irritated easily, if all of a sudden, perfumes bother it, you probably have an imbalance in your gut, and you need to, get that taken care of, or, start eliminating foods and figuring out which ones don't suit you. Then there's autoimmune conditions. So a lot of times we get autoimmune diseases because of our unhealthy gut. And as I mentioned before, food intolerances. But the thing I want to mention about, autoimmune conditions is that it's not something that's easily defined by science. It's kind of like a catch-all term. I'm not saying that those things aren't real, because they are. What I'm saying is that a lot of it can be solved through your gut. So there's this, what's it called? Documentary called Super Juice Me, not Super Size Me, Super Juice Me. I highly recommend it. It is so fascinating. This group of people went on a juice cleanse, and they went to this beautiful place, and they were there, and they just did this juice cleanse all together. And I think it was for 4 weeks that they did it. And this one particular man, he came in literally with a suitcase, like a carry-on size suitcase full of his medications. I think he had 52 of them. When he left, he was on like 2 of those medications, or something along those lines. But what I'm saying is it was because his gut was rebalancing. So there you go. That's gut health in a nutshell. So that is all the time that we have for today. I want to say thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll be back on Thursday. And for those of you who we won't see on Thursday, have a great week. And for those of you we will see, have a great week. And as a real quick reminder, if you are interested in having your own TV show, reach out to me at ownyourwellness.net, set up a strategy call with me, and we will talk about whether or not that would be a good idea for you on our network here. All right, everyone, have a great night, and we'll see you on Thursday.